Welcome. Sit down, roll up, pour up, turn up and tune in, because you're now watching the Buncher Bull Network.
What up? Welcome to the world's dopest podcast, the Marley State of Mind podcast, down here at the Bunch of Bull Studios, as per usual. And tonight, I got a special guest in the house with me, the owner of Windy Bridges Brewery, my man Marcus. How you feeling, brother?
Man, can't complain. Can't
Good.
complain, man. I appreciate the invite to be here, you know.
Oh man, I'm happy to have you. It's dope, man, to have you on the podcast. I've been interested in this because breweries and independent breweries, especially in our city, got popular. They kind of caught fire a little bit about, I want to say, like pre-pandemic time.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say,
Pre-pandemic time?
Pre-pandemic, it started to really catch that flame and start moving. And then once that pandemic hit, a lot of them closed. They just couldn't sustain.
Yeah, they couldn't sustain.
You know?
Yeah. Now, I lived in Portland, Oregon for a while. Shout out to the PDX, man, and they were big on breweries. They had a heavy scene, and they were real big in the beer culture. And then when I seen it come here, I was excited because you get a lot of dope flavors when you get those independent breweries around. Man, you get some different stuff than what you usually see, and it's a lifestyle, right? It's a culture. You know what I mean? It really is a culture. So I was excited to see that culture introduced to us. Now I like to kick off the podcast by saying how I was introduced to the guests, the creative that I have on, yourself. You know what I mean? My man El Tigre. Had his pop-up shop. If y'all haven't got a chance to catch that episode with El Tigre, make sure y'all check that out. A dope motocross rider. He has an awesome story with him. But El Tigre had his pop-up shop down there at the Refresh Shop with Daily Bread and those guys, right?
Right.
And you had some brews on display.
I did.
You guys collabed on a brew, which was really good, man. I'm not a big beer drinker, but I love that brew. I love that brew. It was delicious.
I appreciate it.
You brought us a little something to the sample, which is good. What did you say that was? The one you brought?
The one I brought today was a peach lemonade sour. So kind of summery. Get you ready for the nice summertime vibes.
Yeah, that's what one of the homies said too, right? He said it feels like a summer brew, right? And it definitely does taste refreshing, like a summer brew. Now, with all of that being said, man, tell me a little bit how you got into this, man. Were you like passionate about beer? Were you into the culture of beer first, or how was this introduced to you?
So, first and foremost, lived in Chicago, moved from Chicago to Pittsburgh. Hence the name. That's where the Windy Bridges come from.
Makes perfect sense.
So back home, we used to have a thing we would call it Cushion Bush.
Okay.
Me and my guys, get some Kush. That's when Kush was popping. We talking 2005, 6, 7, around that era. Yeah. We get us a case of Bush. So that was like
Cushion Bush.
Cushion Bush.
Little drink, little smoke.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so that was like the introduction to just drinking. As far as beer was concerned, I never really liked beer that much.
Right.
But
trying to get faded
real quick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's doing the trick.
So I ended up moving out here about 2011, and the job that I worked at, these guys every Friday we get paid and everything. We go down to a bar. It was a craft bar.
Okay.
And we would go down, and they would have stuff like your Trogs and different big breweries like that. So when we go in, I think I ordered like a Corona or something like that, and it was like people was just looking like.
And this was at the craft. This was at the craft brewery.
This is the craft house.
Yeah, they felt offended then.
It's not what we drink here, right?
Yeah, right.
So,
I'm surprised they even had it for you.
No, they didn't. So they convinced me to get a IPA. So the first IPA I ever drank was a Bell's Two Hearted.
Okay.
And then from like then, it was just like, damn, this is pretty good.
Did you like that IPA?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. So I started drinking more IPAs, this, that, and the third. So then this cat come and work with me one day, and he brings in some mead. Now, although it's kind of a different process. It's somewhat the same process as
Okay.
beer. So he gives me the meat and everything. He tells me I brew beer too. This, that, and the third. So I'm like, all right, this cat brew beer. I know I'm finna try to brew this because this motherfucker, he ain't the brightest.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
He could get it done. I think
Like
I
if he could
do
do it,
this.
I could certainly
Right.
do it. Yeah.
I could do this.
Right.
So, man, then I started brewing beer. Man, got into the game, and the first beer that I brewed was it was an Imperial IPA. And anybody who drinks beers know that's a really high octane beer. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying?
Yeah. Like what percent of alcohol is that?
You can get it up to about 9%, 8.5%, 9%. So it's a high
And your
octane
your
beer.
average beer is what, like 3?
Nah, your average beers, I mean, IPAs or something like that, a session, probably about 4.5,
Okay.
between 4.5,
Yeah.
5.5, 6. You know. So yeah, I make this beer, man. And it wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. You know what I'm saying? It was just like it was
mid, some
yeah,
mid,
it was somewhere in between. So I'm like, all right, you got my interest. I'm gonna keep going with this.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey, what up,
So,
comment section? We see y'all, man. Thanks for tuning in with us.
all right, what's going on? So yeah, man, I get to brewing some more, and then I'm brewing, and then I started to look at what was it, Fresh Fest at the time. It wasn't Barrel of Flow.
Okay.
At the time, it was Fresh Fest. So then this starts popping up, and I'm like, Fresh Fest. And then I'm looking at it, and it's like black brewers around America that's coming to Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying?
And this is
Fest.
before you got heavy into it. You made that one brew.
This way before I get heavy into
Okay,
it.
okay.
You know, I'm still brewing every now and then, but not
Not seriously.
right. Like
Yeah, you
not.
playing around with it a little bit.
So, yeah, man. Once I started looking in the Fresh Fest and I started seeing this, that, and the third, I'm start doing a little research. Like, all right, black brewers. How many black brewers on the average is it in America? And it's under 1%.
Damn.
Under 1%, right? You got states that never had a black brewer. Pennsylvania just got their first license, brick and mortar black brewery.
Wow.
And it's over in Philly.
Okay.
Shout out to two locals,
Shout out to two locals
Shout
for
out
sure,
to two
man.
locals,
Yeah.
man. So yeah, it's like an anomaly to meet somebody, you know what I mean, who's black and is into this beer game. And it's
Now, what was
crazy.
the name of the first festival you said? Before it was Barrel and Flow? What
It was a Fresh Fest.
Fresh Fest. Okay.
Yeah. So
Now, Fresh Fest had more black owned brewers on display there.
well, this was at the beginning of the stages of Barrel and Flow because this ended up evolving into Barrel and Flow, right?
Okay.
So this was more at the beginning stages of where it is now. You know what I mean? So yeah, when I started doing my research and everything, and then I started looking at who's running Fresh Fest and all of that, and man, when they say when God lined up the stars for you, and when He want to make it happen for you,
It's
gonna make
gonna
it
happen.
happen,
Yeah,
man.
it's inevitable.
And it just so happened that the guy who was running that, Dave Bracey, we got mutual friends.
Yeah, shout out today, man.
Shout out to Dave, and with those mutual friends, man, we just end up at a party one time, and we talking this, that, and the third, and that conversation really didn't go nowhere. It was just a small conversation, or
Right.
whatever, but
like an introduction, more or
it
less.
opened up them doors, And then so from there, man, we ended up talking again probably months later. And that's when, man, he started to see what I was doing with now Windy Bridges is coming to a focus,
Yeah.
And man, when he would hit me up, he would just give me like different references, man. This brewery hiring. So it's like, man, I would look it up.
You were really
Boom.
immersing yourself into the world.
I was jumping into it, man.
Yeah.
I was jumping into it. He sent me, so before we get too far, you know what I mean? So I'm a level 1 Cicerone, which he sent me the link to sign up for that, and I ended up getting a scholarship for that.
Okay, what's that? Now tell me a little bit more about that.
So a Cicerone is like a sommelier of beer,
Okay.
right? It's like the taste. You can break down some of the taste and
Oh, so you're
different
really
stuff like
trained
that.
in it. Yeah.
Right. Now there's different levels to it. There's levels to this shit.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what
for
I'm
sure.
saying?
For sure. Always.
But yeah, so right now I just have my level 1 Cicerone. So he sent me to that lead, and then he also sent me to the lead that kind of kind of really opened the doors for me was he sent me a lead to work over at In the Groove. Shout out to In the Groove.
Okay.
Over in Verona.
Now, what is it? What does it take to become a level 1 cicerone? Am I saying that right, cicerone?
Cicero, yeah.
Yeah. How do you? What does it require? What do you have to do to obtain that?
So pretty much it's more of an online type thing, online class. They just ask you have to learn about different flavors, like the main 4 ingredients of beer.
Okay.
Which is water, yeast, hops, and grains,
Okay.
right? You have to learn that type of stuff, the textures of them, how to break it down, the different styles of beer.
Yeah.
Because like right now, what y'all drinking is an ale. You know what you usually drinking like a your Corona, or not Coronas, but your
Bud Lights,
Budweisers,
yeah,
Bud Light.
yeah.
Those are American lagers.
Okay.
Different process.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
And that's what distinguishes an ale from a stout from a.
well you had 2 types. So you have an ale and a lager.
Okay. Okay.
So a stout is an ale.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Your lagers are more so, like I said, your American beers that you drink. Right.
Yeah.
So
Now, before you got into that world and before you started studying for the tests and stuff like that, did you have any idea about all the nuances and intricacies of beer?
a little bit. YouTube.
Yeah.
That's about it, man. I would just jump into YouTube, go down that wormhole,
YouTube
man,
University, yeah.
and just learn as much as I could, and just try to apply whatever I was learning. I've always been that type of dude, man. I'm inquisitive. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I would just dive into that and just see what I could learn from it. And then once I started to, go through the classes or whatever for the Cicero, that right there, it did a lot. It opened up a lot of different doors and shit. It taught me a lot.
It opened up your mind to it.
Definitely did.
Yeah.
And from there, I ended up going to Point Park. They have a brew program at
Oh, that's
Point
crazy.
Park.
I didn't know
Shout
that.
out to Greg Johnson.
I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
So, ended up at Point Park and learned even more because now we hands on, So we
Yeah.
in the classroom and we learning this stuff. So
Now, you went to Point Park for this. You're taking online courses, so obviously you're investing in this.
yeah,
When did you hit that corner of like this is something I'm passionate about now, right? Because if you're investing into it, you're putting money into it, you obviously have some type of passion for it.
Yeah.
Like when did you turn that corner? Was it right after Fresh Fest? When did you turn that corner to like, yeah, I want to be a part of this?
Man, that's a good question. I guess what kind of made me want to kind of take this a little further was, it's cool when you giving family beer, when you make beer and shit, or anything, is your family always gonna support you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like your family always gonna say, "Oh, that's good, baby," this, that, and the third and shit. But when I gave beer to strangers,
Yeah.
like complete strangers that don't know me and
Don't have anything invested in you.
nothing at all,
Yeah.
but just the little time that they spent to hear my story, right? And once I see their reactions to it, and it's like, damn,
Almost like a chef who cooks a good dish and
yeah,
sees the people.
same exact thing,
Yeah.
same exact thing, man. Because that brew process to me is like you whipping up something, you coming up with ingredients and you whipping up, and just like they say, man, your food tastes how you feel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You
When
feel the same way about the brew?
I do.
Yeah.
You put your love and your commitment into this, man.
Yeah.
Like you put your whole everything.
It's
into
really a
it.
creation of yours.
It's a creation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you said you went to Point Park. You're
Yeah.
doing the classes there.
Mhm.
What did you get from that?
More of a hands-on experience, man. That was
You were already working with at breweries at that time as well, right?
At that time, I was already working at Inner Groove,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just more of a hands-on experience. Everything that we learned it was like you see it in your face as far as the fermentation of things. We learned more so about, like I said, the 4 different elements of brewing, the sugar chains, how they link together to make certain beers. Like,
Became a chemistry class. Almost.
it definitely did.
Yeah.
And that wasn't my thing in school.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's funny how now you're in that world basically. I mean,
Yeah.
more or less this is chemistry.
Yeah.
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 So you go to Point Park, you start learning about the process.
Mm-hmm.
You're working at the brewery, so you're really perfecting your craft at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I got to In the Groove, I actually started in the front of the house. So I was serving beers, and again, this was like right after
Pandemic.
the pandemic.
Yeah.
So at that time, it was because usually, folks come up to the bar to get their drinks.
Yeah.
Then it was you had to go to them. It was more like a restaurant type style.
Right.
And just by doing that, that kind of you get to know people. This, that, and the third. Start meeting
Start
different
learning people's
folks.
tastes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Learning what they like to drink that time of year.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that it became an opening in the back of the house, and I immediately jumped on it, and from there, I just that was probably the best experience that I had as far as learning the process of how to do it from beginning to end on a big scale. You know what I mean?
What did it look like once you seen that process on a big scale? Did it feel more obtainable?
It did.
Yeah.
It did. It did. I guess I've talked to a lot of folks, and some folks say like coming from the home brewing world to that type of world, it's a little intimidating. But to me, like you said, it looked very attainable now.
It was inspirational for you.
Very inspiring.
Yeah.
Just to see how you, again, somebody else going through the process that I go through of making this recipe, and then looking at the customers drink what you made. So shout out to Tim and Kevin back in the house, and Kelly and Jen and all of y'all over in the groove. Because man,
sure.
I learned a lot from them.
Yeah, for sure. So you're working at Inner Groove. You're at Point Park taking the courses. At this time, you're still doing your own brews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at this time, I'm still brewing. Just doing small things like that. So we ended up doing at this time. Now it turned into Barrel and Flow.
Ooh, yes, yeah.
So this was like the first Barrel and Flow over on the south side where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm sorry, down in Strip District where it is now.
You said, and Day has that?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew that, but I wasn't.
Yeah. Day is he. Shout out to Dave, man. Barrel and Flow is where it's at, man. August 9th.
Yeah, and he was able to take it in good places because they even had that show on like KDKA or I don't want to missay the channel because I'm not sure exactly what local channel, but they had like their own segment on there and everything. They really took it far with that and really representing for minorities in that space, right?
Yeah.
So now you're doing Barrel and Flow. At this time, are you starting to get more of a sample size of what people were taking to as far as your brews go? Do you have like a what would we call it? Like your go-to brew that everyone likes? Do you have like a signature brew? That's what I'm looking for. The word signature.
Yeah. So I guess my golden ale, I do a golden ale probably the most out of all the beers that I brew. It's just one of those fallback. Everybody loves a golden ale all times of the year.
Yeah.
So, but outside of that, I do different things, man.
Yeah.
Just different, whatever comes to mind. And again, I try to equate what I brew to our culture. For example, I do a banana pudding stout.
Ooh.
For in the wintertime.
Yeah.
That kind of thick heaviness of the stout, but it has that grandma's banana pudding to
what?
it.
You gotta let me know when that one drops.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Summertime, I do a sour watermelon.
Ooh.
I do a creamsicle.
Yeah.
So it's whatever my mind can come up with as far as, just my childhood kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. What inspired you as a kid, what you felt like that time of year.
Right.
Because like you said, banana pudding for me too, it holds a special place. I used to love it.
Yeah.
When Grams make that banana pudding, man, and them cookies get just soft enough, from sitting in the fridge, you know what I mean?
Man.
So yeah, no, I feel that. So you're often inspired by what made you feel good.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
You're trying to transfer that off into your space. Now, do you find it difficult? Is there like a lot of gatekeeping in the brewing community?
No.
That's good. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I can answer that very quick. No. In this community, man, at least what I've ran into a lot of good people that's more than willing to help in any capacity. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
If they see that you serious about it, and they just willing to give a hand on anything that
they want to get some game to you, yeah.
Right. So, no, I haven't really run into somebody who was like, this my shit. No, you know what I mean.
What about like even being a minority? Because you said it's less than 1% in the community. Do you find like challenges with being, we're already minorities in America, but being a minority in a space that's so small, or is the community open to minorities?
Again, the community that's here in Pittsburgh, as
Yeah.
far as I've run into, again, I haven't met that yet. I
Yeah.
haven't run into that type of situation yet. But that's not to say that is
That
not out
doesn't
there.
exist.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. All you can
Because
speak on is your experiences.
right, exactly. I mean,
Wow.
we all know that that does happen, especially for the LGBT community, the minority, black women, just
Right.
in general. It is the beer community has always been that collared shirt, well, not collared shirt, flannel shirt, bearded white man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like
And
hipsters,
white hipsters,
more or less. Yeah.
right? Pretty
Yeah.
much. And we are coming through and breaking down doors and creating our own space.
Right.
With the different things that's going on. Like I said, by me coming from Chicago, in Chicago you have 3 black-owned breweries, 3
Okay.
or 4 actually.
Have you been back home since you got into the brewery world?
Oh yeah, man. I was just home a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it like? What's the scene like there compared to here? Because I'm sure you check it out. Well, I'm assuming that you check it out when you're out there as well.
I do. It's so Chicago's big, right?
Yeah, much bigger, right?
Right. It's real big, and as far as the beer scene, you have certain pockets where the beer scene is huge, but it's not really, as far as like independent. I would say independent breweries out there. I don't see them as much as you would out here in Pittsburgh.
Right.
Right. Pittsburgh is it's kind of more of a tight knit.
Yeah, and it seems like Pittsburgh really embraced independent breweries and,
Yeah.
and the whole culture and lifestyle. Not even just Pittsburgh, surrounding areas. You
Yeah.
go out to
Yeah.
like Middle PA, like you said, Philly even has a black-owned
Mm-hmm.
brewery now. It seems like it's really expanding in the area. And this area, like I said, Portland was real big into that. It kind of reminds me of the same type
Yeah. Yeah.
same type of thing. Now you've been to Chicago, your home. Have you been to other areas to check out what the brewery scene is like? To check out what the beer culture's like?
Yeah. Yeah. So usually, man, whenever I go out of town, I always want to check out a brewery.
Yeah.
I always want to do. So went down to New Orleans.
Do you research them before you go? Like, let me see what brewery I'm gonna check out before I get there.
Usually, in most states, you always have that one that everybody knows.
Yeah.
Right. Like New Orleans is a Abita. Everybody
Okay.
knows Abita. Right. So I try to avoid those big name ones.
Really?
Yeah. I like to support the more local ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The big name ones, you're already good. You're established.
Yeah.
Go to a smaller one, they get my dollar.
What's been one of the more impressive smaller ones that you've been to out of state?
Again, man, that's a tough question. I would say back home. Man, what is the name of that one? It's one out in Naperville, Illinois, I believe. Can't remember the name right now, but they had some really good beer.
Yeah.
Really good beer.
Do you remember what you had that you really liked from there?
Oh yeah, they had a good coach. They had a
Okay.
good coach. Another one that I could tell you, Black Horizon. Black Horizon.
Where they located at?
They're out towards Lombard. I know they're not in Lombard, but out towards that way.
Okay.
Yeah, very good beer.
Well, what was the flavor you had out there that impressed you?
They had a lager, man. That was nice, clean, crisp. Man, it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was real good.
Really enjoying the one you brought down. Now, whenever you're going through it, and you said you're going through your flavors, you like to do things that connect with you,
Right.
that relate to you. What's some of your favorite brews that you've come up with so far?
Yeah, like I said, the banana pudding stout is
That's your favorite?
I pulled that one out. I wouldn't say that's more so my favorite. My favorite probably be that watermelon.
Yeah.
That watermelon sour was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when you're making the fusion, I'd imagine it's a different process than when you're making just a regular ale or a regular lager. It's a different process for those fusions.
It's just an extra step in the process.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily say it's a different. You're just adding one more extra step to it.
Yeah.
And when you're adding fruit to beer or flavor, it always depends. When you do it, it's very critical.
Okay.
Right. So, That's why I say it's just the extra step. So you have to wait till it's fully fermented, and then you add your fruit and mix it up.
Is it a lot of trial and error whenever you're coming up with something new?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I never made. Well, I can't say that. I have made stuff that it was just like I gotta dump it. Right? Like this shit's terrible.
That probably hurt your heart too, huh?
It does, but it's a learning curve. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You
Yeah.
learn from it.
Yeah.
Shit, you crawl before you walk, man.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, so
Yeah.
yeah. When you start testing the waters for those new flavors, usually when I do try to reach out and do stuff like that, I always try to at least buy a beer and drink it that has that.
So you
style.
can have a something comparable to compare it to.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So have you been inspired by like we're talking about you going out of town and trying out these different breweries?
Mm-hmm.
Have you tasted something that inspired you to make something like, oh, I like this. I want to make something, maybe not copy it, but I want to make something like this.
Yeah. Dogfish. I like Dogfish. 90 Minute.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good beer, man, and that was one of those beers I tried to clone,
Yeah.
or whatever, you know, but I haven't quite got to where I want it yet. But I mean, yeah, I've tried theirs. As far as local wise, not really,
Yeah.
you know, because the thing about beer, man, is we can use the same ingredients. And they could just taste totally different.
Completely different.
You know what I mean? Your water profile might be different.
Yeah.
You know, your hop schedule might be a little different. Whatever the case may be. So yeah.
Now, are there like flavors that are unique to different areas? Like if you try a Philly stout, it's going to taste different than a Pittsburgh stout. Is that a thing that exists in a beer community?
It does. Pittsburgh is real good for IPAs.
Yeah.
As far as the water. You don't have to do too much filtering of the water. You know what I mean? You could add your salts or whatever, get it where you want it to be. But Pittsburgh has pretty good water for that. You go out west, you know, that water's a little bit more, I guess, cleaner.
Yeah.
You know?
So environment does play a factor
does.
on what the flavors are going to be and how they come out.
Definitely does.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can see that, man. And it's cool to hear about, like, I enjoy interviews like this where it's something outside of the music community, you know, because I'm a member of that and I understand that well. But whenever we get to do something like this, it's a different experience and it's a walk because the community is always community, right?
It is. But, you know, I consider this as part of the music community and everything. This is
100%.
all a part of our culture, you know what
Absolutely.
I mean? You know, this is like our music is our expression of what we've seen, what we came through, what we went through. So, and this is the same thing. This is our expression of how we cook, how we create.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like you said, it's absolutely that. It's an art form, and it's an expression of self. And when do you go to a party and not have music and drink?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's one of the things that you got to have. They go together. You got to have music and drink. And this is like I said, it's such a cool thing to hear about because you wouldn't even think it's a thing that could be done. You know what I mean? Like growing up, I never thought about being a brewer, or it's a possibility that I can have a homie who's a brewer. You know what I mean? And even when I had LT Gray on, we spoke about that. He was like, I didn't think I could get my own brew. But I thought that was something that you had to be like, you know, up here to be able to, you know, I got to be. But then I met Marcus and we got it cracking.
Man, so that relationship between him and I, man, was, you know, what they call that shit, organic or whatever.
Yeah.
Man, you know, he just hit me out the blue. And he was like, man, I looked up black brewers in Pennsylvania and your name popped up. You know what I'm saying? And
How'd that make you feel?
Shit, that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good feeling to be recognizing on that
level.
On that level now.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I've do other fests besides Barrel and Flow. So, you know, just to be out there having people, you know, drink my beer and then now you recognize on that level. So it's like, damn, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we did something last year.
It was another pop-up, right?
Yeah, he had another pop-up right before one of his races out in California.
Yeah.
So, you know, that one, I believe I did a Granny's apple pie, golden ale, I believe, and then I think it was like a stout, regular stout or something.
Yeah.
Damn good though, man.
Oh, it sounds good.
Man.
Sounds good.
And yeah, so after we did that, you know, he hit me up again earlier this year, and he was like, "Hey, yo, You know, I got something going on. I got some races. Let's make a beer. I'm like, all right, shit. What you thinking, right?
Yeah.
And he like, man, I want some, El Tigre. I wanted to kind of represent my name to see. So man, soon as
You guys really collabed on a vision.
we really collabed on the vision, man, from the very beginning. I told him, man, and I said, I'm gonna let you put this whole thing together how you want to,
Yeah.
right? So soon as
It's almost like he commissioned you for an art piece.
he did,
Yeah.
he did, as soon as he started to, as soon as he showed me the label of what he wanted, with that tiger coming through, I'm like, I got you,
Yeah, that label was hard too.
man. I'm like, I got you. So from there, it was like, boom, we're gonna do a sour, but we're gonna have blood orange in it. That's gonna be that
Like
was
a
it.
tiger ripping through something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Damn, that's hard.
Exactly, man. And he came through, man, and we did the brew. He stayed for the whole time.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how good it was, man. And I like the one that you brought today, and that El Tigre. I like the flavor to them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like I'm no connoisseur by any means, but um, this one summer feels refreshing. It's
Yeah.
not heavy. You know how you drink brew and you feel bloated, and
Right,
this
right.
doesn't give you that. You know what I mean? Are you conscious of that whenever you're doing the brewing process?
I am, man. Especially when I do brew fest and stuff like that, just this different festivals.
Yeah.
I always try to cater to these situations, right? So you at the fest, man, and you got 60, 70 different breweries that you
Yeah.
tasting, right?
Yeah.
And some of them they up there, 14, 15%.
Damn.
Right? So I like to come in with something that's refreshing, nice, cool, nice day out. If you in the 80s, 90s, whatever, man,
Yeah.
get you a nice, refreshing drink. Boom.
Yeah, you ain't wearing it. It's heavy on you, sweating
Right.
it out. Yeah.
Right. So it just keeps you nice and cool,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I always try to, like I said, brew to the occasion.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, and that's now whenever you're making these brews and you find one you really like, and you get done with that batch, is it difficult to repeat that flavor to get the same exact flavor, or is it pretty easy once you get it down?
Um,
Because I imagine it's difficult, right? Like making a pie, like it doesn't always taste the same when you make it. Like making but sometimes you can nail it and get it to be the same.
You can.
Is it the same in brewing?
Um, when you brew something so long, I would say like my golden ale I was telling you about.
Yeah,
man,
you got that down.
with me, exactly. So it's like it's one of those grandma in the kitchen and she putting in a little bit of this, a pinch of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of them type things. But brewing beer, man, you taking notes constantly.
Yeah,
Like you
I bet.
constantly, yeah. Especially if you really trying to dial in on something.
Do you have to journal it? Like, okay, at this point in the
Yeah.
process, I did this.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
it's a lot of. I'd imagine it'd be a lot of that. I never thought about like once again the nuance
Yeah.
of what goes into something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It again, like I was saying, man, your hop schedule, how you dropping the hops in, and say you doing the IPA, how you dropping the hops in, will determine the flavors that you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of cleaning. I'm sure he told you that it's a lot of cleaning and sanitizing.
Yeah.
One small thing, man, one small infection can ruin the whole beer.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
Now, say we got someone watching now who wants to get into brewing. What would be your advice to them as good first steps getting into brewing? How would you tell them to go about doing it?
Do your research. Just do your research on it. It's if you are a person that kind of pays attention to detail, it's not really that tough.
Are you that person?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, I kind of, it's like I said, man. This is things have to go in a certain order, and it has to be at a certain time when you're doing it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you're that type of person, I mean, it's not a hard thing to do. But
Right.
yeah, just do your research on it.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, is it something that's difficult to get into? Brewing your own brews is that a tough thing to get into?
No, you can get a 1 gallon kit for shit $20-something.
Is that right?
Yeah. Brewer's Best. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Like I said, that first brew I did was a 1 gallon kit, $20-something, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, that evolved into
Sure.
what I'm doing now. But
Sure.
yeah, do your research, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, what about like when you were coming up? What would you like to avoid? What would you tell other people to avoid that you wish you would have avoided coming up in the process?
again, doing more research. Sometimes you end up buying shit that you don't need.
Yeah.
You spend your money on the wrong thing when you really need this.
You wish you would have did more research.
Yeah, on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So at this point, like I said, I dove into doing my
You know what
research.
you
and
know what to
that's
do
what
now. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, it's just like certain things. Like is brewing is not. It's not really that expensive unless you really get into it.
Yeah.
If it's just a
It
side
can get
little hobby,
expensive.
it can very well get expensive.
Yeah.
So that type of stuff. And then if you have the opportunity to work with somebody who's involved in it, going back to something that I would tell, if you have the opportunity to work with somebody who's involved in this game already, man, shit, pull their coat.
That's good advice. Yeah.
Learn as much as you can. Pull their coat.
Like you said, when you first got into it, you worked at that brewery, and you worked
Yeah.
you worked at the what was the name of the brewery one more time?
In a groove.
Inner Groove. You worked at Inner Groove, and you started off on the ground level.
Yeah.
You started off, and when you seen the opportunity to move in the back and really learn the process, you took advantage of it.
Exactly.
So that's what you're saying. They should do. Find a local brewery that's doing what you want to do.
Yeah, man. Most of the time, they'll let you work for beer, and mostly you're gonna probably start in packaging, but that's cool though. You learn in the process though.
Right.
But yeah, man, it is. If you can find that sensei or whatever,
Yeah.
get underneath him.
Now for me, I have a hard time with IPAs, bro. The first time I had an IPA, it just tastes like I've been into a flower, right? I wasn't
Yeah.
feeling it. Now, somebody like me, do you have a recommendation of an IPA that I might should try? Because maybe I just didn't try the right one. It kind of turned me off from it.
Again,
I'm not big. I didn't like that floral. I didn't like how florally it was.
okay. So the bitterness or the floralness,
The floralness.
the floralness. Okay, so you could try something with more of a juicy or berry type taste to
Okay. Okay.
it.
Find
like I said,
an IPA that might have like a berry fusion to it. Or
yeah,
some type of,
not so much a berry fusion, but the hops in it. So that floralness comes from the hops that's used, right?
okay. Yeah.
So when you one of the things about brewing, let's break down the process of brewing.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right, let's do this. So you start with your grains, right? You start with your water, or you got to get your water to a certain temperature because you're getting ready to mash in. So you get your water to a certain temperature, and it also has to have a certain pH level to it, depending on what you're trying to brew.
Do they have kits so that you could test the pH levels?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You can just get a little pH test off of Amazon for $30.
Okay.
Right? So you get your pH to where you want it. Depending on your beer style, it does fluctuate.
Okay.
Once you get it to that, now, like I said, Pittsburgh water is decent for IPAs, but you still have to treat it. So once you get that pH to where you want it and everything, and now people do it different ways. Some people, they put their salts and everything in the water. Some people put it in the mash.
Okay.
I'm one of those. I put it in the mash, right? So now you have your grains. Now, depending on what you're brewing, your grains, they'll differ, right? If I'm doing a IPA, I would lean heavier on 2-row or something like that with a little golden promise or something like that,
Okay, and that's the grains.
That's the grains of it, right?
Okay.
If I'm doing more of a sour or something a little bit lighter, then I would go towards Pilsner or
Okay.
something, a lighter grain. Has a different taste to it.
Now it's funny because I hear these names, but I never made the connection. Like
Yeah.
Pilsner, something that you hear often in brewing, but I never made a connection to it being the grains.
Right,
Okay.
right. So so depending on what you're brewing, you lean on to those grains.
Right.
So once you get those grains, you got to crack them. When you crack them, that's what I guess it opens up the sugars. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because your sugars is what making your beer.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Right. So from there, you put your water in and you drop your grains in. This is called mashing in. When you're doing that, you're letting that sit for about an hour or so. What you're doing is pretty much making sugar water.
Okay.
You're extracting all of that sugar out of those grains.
Out of the grains, yeah.
Right. And with that water that you had in, is becoming like sweet sugar water. Right. So like I said, for me, that's when I add my salts. Again, people add them at different stages, whatever.
Right.
So from there, after that hour, is when you want to transfer it over to your boil kettle. So now you starting to boil. You want to get those sugars and bind them together now, right? In layman's terms, you're
Yeah.
binding these sugars together, right? So now that you're boiling and everything, now during this part of it is when you want to add your hops. Now, the timing that you add your hops kind of determines like the bitterness of your beer. So if I have a 60 minute, say I'm doing a 60 minute boil on
Yeah.
a beer, right, and I add Citra, we'll say Citra, heavy Citra in the first 60 minutes, that beer is gonna be kind of bitter, right?
Okay.
It's gonna have that bitterness.
So
'Cause
the
I added
earlier in the
early.
process, the more bitter it becomes.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. But the later in the process, the less bitter, as well as the more like notes that you would get off of it, right? Because different hops, they have different smells to them, different tastes
Right.
to them, right? You get to actually taste those beers,
And that's where
the
it
later.
comes from in the beer. That's when you can start to smell it in the beers.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so once you do that, you boil it for 60 minutes, add your hops and everything during the certain times or whatever, and then from that, you got to cool it down, right? So you got to get it down from that 200 degrees or somewhere around there down to whatever it is that you need to pitch your yeast. Usually, yeast is around 65 to 70 degrees.
Okay, so it's got to come down a good bit.
It's got to come down a good big, and it's got to come down fast. So with that, you could run it through a heat exchanger if you got one, or some type of like a heating coil or cooling coil or any type of thing that you have. You running cold water in it, you running that hot water or that hot beer through, and it's just running across each other.
Yeah.
You get that temperature down, and now you transfer it over to your fermenter, right? And the typical home brewer, they would have buckets. At
Okay.
this point, they would be pouring them in buckets. Myself, I have the conicals that you see in breweries.
In breweries,
and
yeah.
everything. Yeah, I just have a smaller version of it.
Right.
So I transfer over from that to the conical, and as I'm doing that, you want to add air to it because air, this is the only time that you want oxygen in your beer. The oxygen.
Otherwise, you're trying to avoid it.
Right. Outside of that, you want to avoid it because that can stale your beer pretty much, right? So transfer it over to the conical, add your oxygen to it because oxygen is good for the yeast, right? Get that together, boom, boom, boom. Then you add your yeast to it. Right now, it's a waiting game, right? So now you close that up, and then you waiting. Now you letting the yeast do its thing. You letting the yeast eat up those sugar chains that's in that beer.
Yeah.
And it's lack of a better term, is burping that
Yeah.
air out, right? It's burping out and it's turning into alcohol.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to check your ABV on everything. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope because I've seen I've seen like the homies upstate, right? They make that's when as soon as you said burping, that's the first
Yeah.
thing that came to mind. They make the brews, they get the fruits and all that, and it's the same thing.
Same process.
And they always talk about burping it, letting it go
Yeah.
every once in a while. Now, how you may not know the answer to this, so forgive me if not. But how does this process, or are you familiar with like vineyards and the wine process? Is it similar to that?
Somewhat. Yeah. So a little bit. I do know that the wine process is a very long waiting game.
Yeah.
It's a lot longer than beer.
Okay.
And it's a little bit more forgiving as far as the cleaning wise.
Yeah.
Because we like I said, with beer, you
said it
constantly
has to be clean.
Yeah, everything constantly has to be sanitized.
Yeah.
So you keep a spray bottle with you every time you're doing something. You squirting and shit.
Because you can't let none of that bacteria get in there.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. So it sounds like you do have to be attention detail whenever you're in the process.
Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely.
So now we went through the process with you. We even gave us the game on brewing and how to do it. Now what can we expect coming up from you for the year? What you got going on coming up?
So I just had a couple things going on. I just brewed the other day, Thursday, with D over at Alta Genius.
Dope.
Shout out to Alta Genius, man. We collabing for Barrel and Flow.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got that coming up in August 9th.
You guys working on something special for that?
Yeah, we got something going together. I ain't gonna reveal it.
Yeah,
Just
no,
yet.
don't reveal it. Yeah.
But yeah, we got something going on real special, different. Again, man, I always try to do different. I don't want to be
The
like
same. You want to
everybody
stand
else,
out.
man. Yeah, I already am in my own space because of, the color of my skin. Is
Right.
this is it's
So you really want to plant your flag.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah. So we got Barrel and Flow coming up. Outside of that, might be a few different things going on that I might sprinkle into. But you know, we are right now. Windy Bridges is trying to do some other things, get some things in order, to where hopefully in the near future that you'll see Windy Bridges and bars and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that's
So
dope. Is that tough to do to get your brews in bars?
you just gotta
Because
get.
I'd imagine it's limited space, right? There's only so much space that they can have for that type of thing.
It is, but the good thing, like I said about Pittsburgh, man, is you have a lot of bars that support local. You know,
Pittsburgh loves Pittsburgh stuff.
Pittsburgh love Pittsburgh stuff,
Yeah,
man.
man, I know it.
and,
Yeah,
and it's it's we shooting at history, and people they remind me all the time about it, this, that, and the third. Once I am able to be in bars, I will be the first black person in history of Pittsburgh, to have a brewery,
oh, that's crazy.
right? So it's like people kind of might want to jump on that wave, or who knows,
Or
but
at least support it, right? Yeah,
right, support that wave, and let's try to lift that up and push this. Let's keep it moving.
See how far
forward.
we can
And,
take it. Yeah,
yeah, we want to open up doors and for other folks to see.
yeah.
Listen, man, I got into this brew game obviously because I love doing this. It turned into a passion, but the reality of it is, listen, man, every time I brew a beer, whatever the case, or I'm doing something like this, and people get to see my faces, there's that one who looks like me.
Yeah.
That's like, man, shit, I could do this, man.
Like you said, you seen a coworker doing it. Like if he could do it, I can do it.
right, right. But
You still keep in contact with bro?
I don't.
No,
Yeah, I
that's
don't.
unfortunate, man.
I don't. Yeah.
You can see how far you done came with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, with social media, he probably can.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's I want to inspire, the folks that look like me, that understand, like shit. I didn't want to go to school to be no doctor, or
Right.
I ain't got the skills to be on no court or
Right.
no football field, or
Right.
whatever the case may be.
There's a different path.
It's different paths, man, and we so creative
Yeah.
in our space and in our corner of this world, man.
Yeah.
Not even we all over this world,
All over this
and we
world,
are so creative with the things that we do,
that we can do. Yeah, man.
man. So this is just another one that we
Checking off the box.
man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. This brew thing has just opened up so many doors and forged so many relationships with a lot of different folks. For me to be even sitting here
Yeah.
and having the conversation in this space about black brewing,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, this is a big thing, and it needs to be discussed. It needs to be out there, and people need to hear our voice in this.
No, you bring up a good point. Like you said, it's been a dynamic thing for you, right? And it has, and I always talk about music in that way, being a vehicle. For me, put me in rooms and spaces that I never thought I'd be in.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
fair to say for you in brewing? Has it taken you to places that you wouldn't have went otherwise?
Yeah, definitely.
Like different festivals, different cities, different things
Definitely.
that you just never would have imagined otherwise.
Definitely. With the brewing, just in general, man. I wasn't into like the big going to brew fest or anything like that. But once I got involved in brewing, it was like, yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it put me in positions that I never thought I would, ever be in.
And I gotta imagine, right, for you, whenever you go out of state and you're visiting these other small local breweries, and like we talk about how small it is for us to be in these spaces, you probably sometimes surprise people with your knowledge in brew, right? If you go to these small breweries, like, oh, what type of grain are you using? Or you start, breaking it down to them, they're probably like, oh, what you know about this?
So sometimes it all depends on the vibe of the brewer.
Yeah.
And meaning by that, because you asked that question earlier about if it's any assholes, pretty much.
Yeah.
I have been to a brewery out of state that I'm not gonna say who they are, but I have been to a brewery out of state, and the dude was just very arrogant about his shit, man. I'm asking him, like, man, it smell good in here, woo-woo. And I kind of knew what he was brewing. See, once you can smell, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like I know what you're brewing, right? So Um, we get our beers or whatever. Then I say, can I go talk to the brewer? Right. So I'm talking to the brewer, and the guy was, and it wasn't like he was busy. Understand.
You would understand if he was busy. You could
Right.
see, yeah,
Right. And I probably wouldn't even approach him if he
right,
was,
yeah,
but the dude was just kind of arrogant about the way he was coming off. So, I played a nut role. On that, I clam up and I let you talk. And, again, man, everybody thinks they the best of whatever they do.
sure,
So, he's telling me somewhat of his process and I'm listening to it. And then it's kind of like, all
yeah,
right, all right.
yeah,
But yeah, but then I've been to other places where I've had conversations with the brewer, man, and once a brewer understands, like
that
they
you
see
know
that
what you're
you know
talking
what you're
about,
talking about,
right,
they cool, man.
yeah,
And that conversation just keeps going.
yeah.
And shit, they get to talking about how much they pay for this, that, and the third, and just like getting into it, the whole brew game in general.
Now, with that, have you like continued relationships like that? Have you
Oh
been
yeah.
able to even find those relationships to be beneficial?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've dealt with a lot of different people, along this path, and again, like I said, forged a lot of different relationships,
Yeah,
and definitely keep those bridges open,
yeah,
man. Because you again, this is one of those things, man. I don't care what anybody says, self-made, all of that. Somebody gave you a shot to
oh,
do
100%.
something, right?
Yeah, no man's an island, right?
No man's an island, so you have to acknowledge that, man, and you got to keep those relationships open
Yeah,
because, again, there are times when you fall off and shit.
yeah,
Somebody gotta help
yeah.
you,
Somebody's going to have to help you back up.
right?
No, for sure, man. No, I appreciate you telling the story, bro. Like I said, I was really excited to have you
Yeah,
to have you on today. Um, it's not many of us in this space, so I was even happier to be able to provide the platform for you to tell the story, and hopefully the story inspired
yeah,
others. Like you
yeah.
said, everyone can't pick up a hoop rock and be nice with it.
You know what I
Everyone's
mean?
not book smart. You know what I mean? Everyone doesn't have the traditional skill set that they say you have to be successful. But maybe you opened up a door
Right,
for someone else telling your story. Like, damn, I never thought about
right,
brew. Like,
right.
I like it. I can be passionate about it, and hopefully that's exactly what it does.
Yeah.
Before I forget, and I don't know how I forgot this. Tell the people how to get a hold of you on social media, all that
Okay.
stuff. If they want to follow your journey, they want to get some of this brew and taste some of it. And believe me, you want to get some of this brew. It tastes
Man,
phenomenal.
I
How
appreciate
can they
it.
go
I
about doing that?
appreciate it. Definitely all platforms, Facebook, IG, Snapchat, TikTok, all of that. Man, I got a 20-year-old 21-year-old daughter. She put me on all of that, right?
Got you right.
That's my that's my little social media
Yeah, your
coordinator.
social media director for
But
sure.
all of them is Windy Bridges Brew
Hmm.
under everyone. Yeah, man, just hit me up, follow the journey, see what I got going on. I'm always posting my brews,
Yeah,
my brew days, and it again, like we talked about with the music and everything,
yeah,
man. I got a record player, right? So I'm playing sometimes jazz. Then you might
yeah,
hear some blues.
yep,
Then I might turn around and throw on some nip.
yeah.
It's all
What you
about,
feeling?
man, what I'm feeling. So yeah, man, follow me on all different social platforms and see where I'm going with this because it's a nice ride.
Yeah, man. Make sure if y'all tapped in right now, y'all tap into Windy Bridges Brewery, man. We had my man Marcus here. We had a great time, bro. You're welcome down anytime. Anytime you got something going on, please feel free to let us know. We'll stop by, show some love.
Definitely,
I definitely when that banana pudding come out, bro.
man. I got you.
Let
I
me
got
know.
you. That's
Definitely
gonna
need
be
some.
more towards like
Wintertime. We talking winter.
fall, winter,
Yeah.
around Halloweenish.
Hey,
Yeah, I got
hey. If I'm around, I'm down.
you.
But yeah, man, thanks for y'all for tuning in to the world's dopest podcast, the Marley State of Mind podcast, down here at a Bunch of Bull Studios as per usual. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, share, comment if y'all in here. Let them know that y'all was here, and make sure y'all support Windy Bridges Brewery. Until next time, we out of here.